our coverage of Hurricane Irma. It is having a tremendous impact all across this country. As I said earlier, Florida's been hit hard, but all of you right now who are in Georgia, in North Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama, do understand you are still going to get massive rain, potential flooding, as well as lots of wind. Atlanta issued its first tropical storm warning ever over the weekend. Joining us right now is meteorologist Paul Goodloe from the Weather Channel. You are my ice cold alpha brother, but you're drenched there in Florida. Where are you, Paul?
I'm in Naples, Florida, which is kind of the area where the eye hit the second time. We had the first hit in the Keys yesterday, then came up the southwest coast, and it's brought a bunch of rain, wind, and a lot of water, as well as storm surge and the rain. We had 142-mile-per-hour wind gusts here in Naples, and this is a historic hurricane. We're talking, this is the first time we've had two back-to-back Category 4 hurricanes hitting the lower 48 in recorded history. So that we go back at least a couple hundred years with that. And the damage with this thing is tremendous. Even though it hit the West Coast, the East Coast, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, massive damage on that area. Even flooding going on right now in the Jacksonville area, even Orlando, massive wind damage and flooding. And as you mentioned, now it's going into Georgia. And this is the thing. People get caught up in the singular point of the center of hurricanes, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago with Harvey. These hurricanes are massive systems, so don't get caught up in the point. People thought, oh, hey, I can go back to Miami, I can go back to Fort Lauderdale, I'm cool. They got hit hard with the winds before we did on the west side. So this storm continues to churn and bring massive damage and the risk still of loss of life, and there's also a heavy rain threat like Harvey, but not 36 or 40 inches of rain, but many areas can still pick up 10 to 15 inches of rain in any given day, in anywhere on this earth. That's flooding rain.
I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they said they had relatives who evacuated from Florida to Atlanta, and then they said they heard from them. They said, man, I'm going to have to leave Atlanta.
Well, yeah, I mean, the winds are going to be strong and possibly destructive, maybe over, 50, 60 miles per hour there. And they have a lot of trees in Atlanta, a lot of hills as well. Both don't bode well for gusty winds and heavy rain. It could really give you some flooding there. But it's still safer than Florida. If you get a 50 or 60 mile per hour wind gust in Atlanta, that's better than 140 mile per hour wind gust on the southwest side of Florida, or 120-mile wind gust in Miami. And Miami was so far from the center, and they still got winds that strong. So, I talked to friends and got their parents out of the harm's way in Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, they went to Fort Pierce, but it was safer than Fort Lauderdale. So, it's always best to evacuate. And if it's a waste of your time, it's a waste of your time. But never be there and need to evacuate and it's too late, and wish you would have. I mean, we've all done stuff that, I wish I would have done. Yeah, hurricanes and Mother Nature is something you should not play around with. If you waste your time, great, but you know what? You didn't waste your life.
Paul,
you didn't waste your loved one's life.
Paul and Roland, what I'm not seeing is people who are surviving this hurricane. I'm not seeing a lot of survivors. I see a lot of news reporters surviving the winds and everything, but I'm not seeing actual people being rescued like I did for Harvey. Have you noticed that too?
I noticed that, but Paul, the reality is that because it just hit, the rescuers, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, they are not allowed to go out if winds are still above, 45, 50 miles an hour?
Right, that's the whole thing. The first responders, once we get to tropical storm force wind gusts over 40 miles per hour, they're like, you know what, you had your chance to leave. So, now we're going to hunker down until it's safe to go back out for, you deciding to put your risk. You're not going to put our risk at risk, our lives at risk as well. But we are getting information about even flooding rescues going on around Orlando, even around Jacksonville. So there are some of the I mean, Harvey just kind of parked that rain over Houston, then moved it eastward to Beaumont and Port Arthur. But this is a moving disaster. And we're getting maybe a third of the rain in Harvey, but again, still 10, 15 inches is still a bunch of rain.
Paul, right?
So there are some rescues going on, but The good thing is not as many because people did evacuate and did get out of harm's way.
Paul, I'm showing a satellite image right now again of the tropical storms, and so Irma is passing, but we still have other developments right now in the Atlantic Gulf Coast, Gulf of Mexico, correct?
Katia is gone. I was going into Mexico. There's also Hurricane Jose, which is still in the Atlantic. That's kind of doing a loop, and it's too early to say exactly where. If it is going to hit, the models are not quite in agreement, but it could come close to the East Coast in about a week or so, and some models go on from there. But it's too early because we're still dealing with Irma right now to really focus too much on Irma. We still have easily maybe a week to 9 or so days before we really have to figure out where that thing is going in terms of impacts here in the U.S.
Paul Goodloe, the thing that struck me is that there were the tornadoes that were spawned as a result of this. And I know I saw one story, a woman was coming out and preparing for the arrival of Irma in Orlando, and her neighborhood was struck by a tornado.
There were close to 60 tornadoes yesterday, or at least tornado warnings yesterday because of this. And it happened with Harvey. Anytime you have a hurricane or tropical storm approach land, you're going to have those spin-ups of tornadoes. And we had a bunch yesterday, and we'll probably have even more today because the spin, the overall fast movement of this will create that little shear zone and create little spin-ups of tornadoes. And that's always a risk with hurricanes. And a thunderstorm, they're small, minute risks for smaller areas. But the overall risk that we're concerned about is the overall wind field and all the dangers with the hurricane.
Paul Goodloe, first of all, be safe out there. It's always a little crazy to see reporters telling people don't come out, and reporters are standing out there in the storm.
It's in their contract.
Yeah, no kidding. But certainly stay safe out there. We appreciate it. Paul Goodloe from the Weather Channel.
Keep up the great work, Paul Goodloe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Looks like the South and Southeast going to have rain all week long.
All week of winds, but also we're keeping watch about our folks in the Caribbean, Tom. They greatly impacted St. Martin, Bahamas, those areas as well. Let's not forget them.
Weekdays on TV One.
I will never lie to you.
Oh, my God.
Roland Martin.
He doesn't want to talk to us. He wants to ignore us.
Uncensored.
Hell no. That ain't gonna cut it, boo.
Unapologetic.
No, that is fundamentally false. You are wrong.
Unfiltered.
He wants an America where we all look alike. He ain't talking about black people.
Unrelenting.
You better go work out, because you got a fight on your hands.
NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on TV One.